The load of a differential amplifier as well as the current source are generally realized using the current mirror circuit, and which is the topic I will discuss in this particular lecture. In my earlier lecture, we have seen the common mode response for the differential amplifier where a common voltage VCM was connected with the base of the two transistor Q1 and Q2. Now, as long as this VCM will be such that this VCM is providing sufficient bias for this current source in order to maintain the constant current, as well as it is maintaining the active region for this transistor Q1 and Q2, then this total current, this common current at the emitter I will be used to bias both of these transistors at I by 2. So emitter current for both of these transistors will be I divided by 2, and the corresponding collector current will be alpha times I divided by 2, because IC is equal to alpha times IE, we know. The balanced output differential amplifier is used over here. Balanced output means the output will be measured with respect to each other, and since the common mode voltage is applied, so both of these individual output are appearing are having the similar expression. That is why the balanced output is equals to 0, and this is the reason that a differential amplifier always reject the common mode voltage until unless there exists any kind of mismatch, because primarily I have defined or I have considered that both of these transistor as well as these resistors, this collector resistance, all are perfectly matched. The voltage at the emitter is equals to the applied voltage VCM minus the base emitter voltage of the either of this transistor Q1 or the transistor Q2, and by assuming it is 0.7, so this is the voltage at the emitter. Now voltage at the current source, which is appearing as Vs, is equals to the emitter voltage, this one, minus the negative supply. So since this negative supply is minus VE, so VE plus V double E is appearing across the um, uh, this current source. Now the common mode range, as I told, the common mode range should be such that uh, this voltage should provide at least the minimum bias to keep this current source active, so that the constant current will be available at the emitter of this differential amplifier, as well as the VCM, the maximum value of the VCM will be such that it should not make these two transistors within the saturation region. So the maximum voltage should be at the verge of the active region, and the minimum voltage will be the minimum voltage that will keep this current source active, and it can provide the constant current I. So this is the maximum range. So for this maximum range, it should keep the both of these transistor in active region, and the minimum range is that this is the minimum voltage for which this current source will continue to maintain its constant current I. The differential mode response. In the differential mode response, it has been assumed that one terminal is connected with a ground potential and another terminal is connected with a small differential voltage Vi, while the constant current is being used to maintain the bias for these two transistors. So this bias current is I by 2, here also I by 2, but since the differential voltage is applied, so with positive increment of this differential voltage, a differential current will be increased over this I divided by 2 in transistor Q1, whereas due to the application of this positive Vi, a similar magnitude of the current will be subtracted or will be reduced from the bias current of I divided by 2 from the transistor Q2. So that defines the differential emitter current IE1, which is summation of I divided by 2 plus delta I, and the IE2, which is equals to I divided by 2 minus delta I. So that is, these are the differential emitter current. Now the differential output voltage. This is the V01 voltage across the first transistor Q1, VCC minus IC1, and IC1 right now includes the differential version of the IE1, so alpha times of this IE1 times this RC. Similar expression can be written for the V02, which is appearing across the transistor Q2, and their difference defines the differential output, and that includes this delta I term. So the common mode term, which is I divided by 2, is absent because the output is a differential mode output. It only includes this delta I, which is responsible for the incremental change in current in both of these transistors. One thing you should notice over here, that during the differential voltage or application of the differential voltage, the current delta I gets increased in transistor Q1 and the current delta I, or the similar magnitude in current delta I, gets decreased in transistor Q2. So therefore potential which gets developed across the current source remains constant always, or the constant means it remains constant for the DC voltage, but in differential voltage it is 0, because if Rs, I assume the resistance across the, or it is the source resistance of the current source, then the potential gets developed across this Rs is equals to this current times Rs plus this current times Rs, because the current I is always equals to summation of these two emitter currents. So finally these two currents gives us this I times Rs, which means the differential part is absent. So for the differential application, the differential voltage develops at the emitter node is always 0, and therefore we can easily assume that for differential application this is virtually grounded, and thus Vi minus VBE1, which is equals to 0, because Vi minus VE1 is equals to 0, because since differential mode I'm considering, but for common mode this assumption is not valid, because in common mode both of these transistor is carrying I divided by 2 current, the bias current. Only for the differential mode voltage, this incremental change of this current gets increased in transistor 1 Q1, and the similar amount of current gets decreased from the transistor Q2, and that defines the differential mode emitter current, and that is why the differential mode voltage at the emitter terminal is 0, making, or we can assume that for the differential mode application the ground potential is appearing at the emitter terminal, although it is virtually grounded, is not actual ground, but we can assume since the differential potential is 0, so we can place a virtual ground at this terminal, and that defines this one, Vi minus VBE1 is equals to 0. Similarly 0, since this terminal is grounded, so 0 minus VBE2 is also equals to the similar one. So finally from this equation we can write that Vi is nothing but the difference between the base emitter voltage of transistor Q1 and the base emitter voltage of the transistor Q2, which defines the differential base emitter voltage. The differential gain AD is equals to V0 divided by Vi, and since Vi is defined by this delta VB, so V0 divided by delta VB, and V0 already I have obtained, I have written over here, and by replacing this delta IC is equals to GM times delta VB, where this delta IC is equals to alpha times delta I, so we can obtain this twice GM RC. Next one is the common mode rejection ratio. So in case of common mode rejection ratio, I have assumed that there is a little mismatch in the emitter collector current of the transistor Q2, and due to that little mismatch delta RC, I'm getting some common mode voltage gain ACM, because in general for perfectly matched differential pair the common mode voltage gain must be 0, but since there is a little mismatch in this collector resistance RC, I'm having this common mode gain that is depending upon this delta RC, and this is the differential mode voltage gain that I have derived in my previous lectures, and the division of this AD to ACM defines the CMRR, and the final expression of the CMRR I have obtained in my last lecture is this one. And finally, I have concluded over there that the CMRR can be increased if this REE, this impedance, is high enough. For this REE is equals to infinity, we can get infinite CMRR. Although that is not possible practically, but if we can define a very high emitter resistance, this common emitter resistance, then we can probably define, or we can probably have the higher value of the CMRR. In this lecture, I'll discuss the basic concepts of current mirroring, followed by the basic current mirror circuit and the condition for good mirroring. This is the expression of common mode rejection ratio that I have obtained in my last lecture, and that also I have presented in my recapitulation slides. There I have concluded that the CMRR can be made large if we can make this REE large. Now, a large value of REE means, since REE I have assumed at the common emitter terminal by assuming it is the source resistance of the current source, so we can make this REE by replacing a direct physical resistance over there. But unfortunately, a physical resistance limits the current through it. So that is why a physical resistance is not a good option to increase the CMRR by increasing this REE. Rather, we can design a current source in such a way that the current source can draw the significant amount of current, as well as it can offer a high resistance across the current source itself, if we can design the current source using a bipolar junction transistors. Because we know from the small signal analysis of bipolar junction transistors that a high resistance appear across the collector to emitter terminal of the bipolar junction transistor, and that high resistance was appearing, that is due to the output characteristics which are parallel to the x-axis, and ideally that should be exactly parallel to the x-axis, but due to the early effect we have seen that they are slightly making some angle with the x-axis, but that angle is so small that we can easily assume that the output resistance is very large, and that is why in our all previous analysis we have assumed that R naught, which is equals to 1 by H OE, is infinite, and we have neglected in our previous analysis. Therefore, if we can design a transistor, bipolar transistor, we can design a current source using this bipolar junction transistor, and by connecting these emitter and collector terminal across the current source, then we may design a good current source which can draw a significant amount of current, as well as can offer a high resistance in order to increase the CMRR. In a similar way, so this circuit, whenever you are going to design a current source using a bipolar junction transistor, so that current source must be designed in such a way that the desired current should be copied from another circuit. So this is the another circuit from where this current will be copied, and the condition is that the current which will be provided by this transistor Q4 must not be dependent upon its own load. So in this case, the load for this transistor or the current source Q4 is the entire differential amplifier itself. So by varying the differential amplifiers, this current which is provided by this Q4 must not be varied. By varying the differential amplifier, the parameter of the differential amplifier, the current or the bias current through this transistor Q1 and the transistor Q2 may be varied, but the total current must be constant. Second case is that since this transistor Q4 is copying the current from this transistor Q3, so the copy mechanism should be such that the transistor Q4 must not load the transistor Q3, which means that by varying the transistor Q4, the parameter of the transistor Q4, we can vary the current through the transistor Q4, but that variation must not be reflected over here. So two things we have to keep it in our mind, that when we are going to design a constant current source by using transistor or the current mirror circuit, then the load of the current source itself will not change the current that should be provided by the transistor Q4. This is first condition. And since the transistor Q4 is copying some current from the transistor Q3, so this transistor Q4 must not load the transistor Q3. That means by varying any of the parameter of the transistor Q4, current which is being provided by the transistor Q4 may be varied, but that variation must not be reflected over here. In a similar way, as we have designed, or we can design the current source using the bipolar junction transistor, the load for the differential amplifier can also be designed using the current mirror circuit, because in this case also the resistance which is appearing across the collector to emitter terminal will be very high. So as we know, the differential voltage will be as large as possible, can be made as large as possible if we can make this RC resistance is as high as possible. So by realizing the load resistance or the collector resistance by another current mirror circuit, we can make this RC resistance as high as possible, and consequently we can design a differential amplifier with a high differential gain AD, because AD is proportional to RC over here. This is the basic current mirror circuit where this transistor Q1 and Q2 are used, and the collector of the transistor Q2 should be connected with the common emitter of the differential amplifier, and this I0 current will be used to bias the differential amplifier at I/2 each of their emitter current. Now look at the configuration of the transistor Q1. Here the collector of the transistor Q1 is shorted with its own base. By making this circuit, we can confirm that the collector base voltage of the transistor Q1 is 0, and since the base emitter terminal is greater than 0.7, so this base emitter terminal is also in forward bias, and in common emitter configuration, 0 collector to base voltage means this junction is also forward bias. So therefore, these transistors always remain in saturation region, and such kind of configuration is known as diode connected configuration. A diode connected transistor can draw a very large amount of current. Therefore, we need to limit that large amount of current by a secondary circuit, by placing at the top of this transistor Q1, that already we have seen and we will see over in the next slide also. So by limiting that current, we can define the current which is the reference current Iref. Here I have defined. Now in this case also, the transistor Q1 and Q2 must be matched transistors. So we can assume that beta 1 and beta 2 is approximately equals to beta, and their reverse saturation current are also equal to each other. Now if beta is infinite, then IC collector current of this transistor Q1 will be equals to emitter current of transistor Q1, and similarly the collector current of Q2 will be equals to the emitter current of this transistor Q2. Now since this reference current is the collector current of the transistor Q1, and both of these two transistors are sharing same base to emitter voltage, so collector current of both of these transistors must be equal to each other, because we know from our previous lectures that collector current is approximately equals to Is, the reverse saturation current, times e to the power VBE divided by the thermal voltage Vt. So if they are sharing the common base to emitter voltage, their collector current must be equal to each other if beta is infinite, and that is the idea behind the design of the current mirror circuit. But practically beta or the forward current gain cannot go to infinity. So therefore, we must have to consider what will happen for finite beta. Now, if the beta is finite, then the reference current Iref will be equals to this current IC1 plus this IB2 and IB1, because this reference current is actually supplying all of these three currents. Now, since these two transistors are matched, I can easily assume that both of their base current are equal. So therefore, IC1 plus 2 IB, and therefore this reference current is equals to IC1 plus, since IC is equal to beta times IB, so here I have replaced that equation and I have obtained this equation in terms of IC1 and IC2. Now, since both of these transistors are sharing equal base to emitter voltage, therefore IC1 will be equals to IC2. IC2 will be equals to IC1 is equals to I naught, because I naught I am considering for IC1. So here IC1 and IC2 can be replaced by I naught, and finally I am getting this expression, and from here I can get I naught is equals to I reference times 1 divided by 1 plus 2 by beta. Now, as I have assumed in my previous slide that what happens if beta goes to infinity. So for infinite value of beta, we can have I naught is equals to I ref. But for finite value of beta, we have this expression. Next is the condition for good mirroring. It means we need to find the condition for this R1 and R2, or the condition for the relation of this R1 and R2, that should be maintained in order to have this I naught is equals to I ref. Now, as I told in my earlier slide, that a diode connected BJT can draw a large amount of current from the supply. Therefore, another element must be placed on the top of this bipolar junction transistor in order to limit the current. And here I have placed a resistor R1. This R1 actually, by limiting the current, is defining this reference current I ref over here, and that current is being copied and becoming this I naught through this resistance R2. Then what should be the relation between R1 and R2? That is the condition I am defining in this slide. I ref can easily be found by applying KVL around this loop, that means starting from plus VCC to voltage drop across this R1, which is equals to I ref times R1 plus VCE1 plus this negative supply, which is minus VEE, and that completes another one loop on the left hand side, that is containing this loop. And from here we can easily obtain the expression for I ref, and which is this one I have replaced over here. But most of the cases, this negative supply VE, the magnitude of the VE is equals to the positive supply, that is the VCC. So therefore I have replaced this VE by VCC. And finally, base to emitter voltage is generally very smaller than this supply voltage, so I can neglect this one, and I did that, and I have obtained this I reference, which is equals to 2 VCC divided by R1 approximately. Now I naught, this is the current which is being copied from this reference current, and the expression already I have obtained in my earlier slide, and here I am replacing the expression for I ref that I just have obtained from here, and I'm getting this I naught, having this expression of the VCC and R1 along with that 1 over 1 plus 2 over beta. Again, if I apply KVL around this loop, that means starting from VCC, R2, VCE of this Q2 and this VE, then I'm getting this one. And here also VCC and VE, since I am assuming both are magnitude of both of these supplies are equal to each other, so I can neglect this one, this VCE. I can neglect this, and I can write this VCC plus VE is equals to twice VCC divided by R2. And now equating these two expression of this I naught, I can get this 1 over R2 is equals to 1 over R1 times 1 over 1 plus 2 over beta, and from here I can get this expression for this ratio of R2 divided by R1. Now for large beta, we can see that R1 should be this ratio R2 divided by R1 will be approximately is equals to 1, which means good mirroring can be obtained if R2 and R1 will be equals to each other. Now let's see using a practical example for this current mirror circuit. In this example, I have presented a simple current mirror circuit made of two NPN type transistor, and this transistor Q1 is associated with the resistor R1, which is a variable resistor which varies or which can vary from 0 to 20 kilo ohm, and the transistor Q2 is associated with another resistor R2 which can vary starting from 0 to 100 kilo ohm. Initially this R1 is set at 4 kilo ohm by setting this 20% of 20 kilo ohm, which is 4 kilo ohm, and R2 is also set to 4 kilo ohm because 4% of this R2, which is 100 kilo ohm, is also the 4 kilo ohm. Along with this, the plus VCC that I have used over here is taking a voltage of plus 12 volt, and the VEE is taking a voltage of minus 12 volt. The first ammeter is the first ammeter will record the current Iref, and the second ammeter will record the current I0. Along with that, the voltmeter, this voltmeter will copy the collector to emitter voltage across the transistor Q1, and the second voltmeter will copy the collector to emitter voltage across the current Q2. Now I will show you by simulation that this action of copying should be maintained if R1 will be equals to R2, and that is the condition I have set over here. And for this particular condition, I am going to simulate the entire circuit. Now, as I have started this simulation, let's see what is the collector to emitter voltage of transistor Q1. So this is the collector to emitter voltage across the transistor Q1, and now I should calculate first, and then I will see what this ammeter will record for the transistor for the current Iref. So as I have explained in my last slide the calculation part of this I reference, so I can easily calculate what will be the reference. So here is the plus VCC plus 12 volt, and VE is minus 12 volt, so twice VCC, which is 24 volt, minus this voltage, so which is 0.55655,484. This is the voltage across the collector to emitter of the transistor Q1. So after subtracting, this is the voltage which is appearing across the resistor R1. So dividing this value by resistor R1, which is 4 kilo ohm, I am obtaining 5.836 milliampere approximately. So this is the reference current that should flow through the resistor R1, and this ammeter should record this current. So let's see. Look at here. So this is the current that is the ammeter is recording, and this is the calculation by which I can see that this ammeter reading and these calculations are exactly matching with each other. Now, if this is the reference current, what should be the output current I0? Look at here, the output current is 5.766, approximately it is 5.8, and the reference current is also approximately 5.8. So with first decimal digit, these two ammeter reading are exactly to each other. Although they are varying a little bit if you go to 3 decimal digit. So this variation is due to the reading of the collector to emitter voltage of the transistor Q2. This one you can see from here. Although both of these transistors are sharing the same or equal base to emitter voltage, which is equals to 655.484 millivolt, but the collector to emitter voltage of the transistor Q1 and the Q2 are different, and this difference is actually introducing this error between this current, this output current, and the reference current. Now I am going to vary the resistor R2, and I will see what will happen in the reading of this ammeter means that second ammeter, and what will happen in the reading of first ammeter. As per the theory, this branch should not load, that is the transistor Q2 and the R2 resistor should not load the transistor Q1 and the R1 resistor. That means, although I am going to vary this resistor R2, the current should vary through this branch, that means through this R2, but the current Iref must remain constant. So let's see. So look at here, I am increasing this one. So it is almost, I have increased to 40 kilo ohm, and that is why 40 kilo ohm current has limited, 40 kilo ohm resistor has limited the current to microampere order, but the current, this reference current remains constant to its previous value, that is 5.838 milliampere. Now let's see what will happen if I will vary this one, keeping this one constant. So before that, I'm bringing back to 4%, that is the 4 kilo ohm. Look at here, as the 4 kilo ohm, I brought down this this resistor to the 4 kilo ohm. Again, both of these currents are equal to each other, approximately equals to each other. Now I am going to vary this one. What should we expect? The variation of this resistor will vary this current, and since this I naught current is the copied version of the reference current, so this current also will vary. Let's see. So first of all, I varied 30%. You can see 3.893 milliampere is the current through this branch R1, and but here through R2 in this branch only 4.249 milliampere current we can get, and we can see the difference between this I0 and I reference current. The difference are very large, and this is because of this mismatch in R1 and R2. Now, as I should increase this one, the mismatch even becoming much more larger. So again, with equal value, both are very close to each other. So this is the example of the current mirror circuit. The current transfer ratio is the ratio of output current to the reference current. Ideally, that should be equals to 1 for a large value of beta. But practically, that ratio is equals to the reverse saturation current of transistor Q2 to that of the transistor Q1. Another way, this current transfer ratio can be represented as the ratio of area of emitter base junction of transistor Q2 to that of the transistor Q1. If you can design the area of emitter base junction of the transistor Q2 much wider than that of the transistor Q1, and it is wider by n times of the transistor Q1, then this current transfer ratio is the I0 to I reference can be equated with this n. Now, if n is equals to integer value, n is an integer value, then you can think that the one transistor having wider area of the emitter base junction than the Q1 is actually equals to the n number of transistor having equal emitter to base junction of the transistor equals to the transistor Q1 are parallelly drawing the equal number of current from this one reference current. That is why I naught is becoming equals to n times I reference current, because this reference current should be capable enough to supply all the current which are being copied all of these transistors. So wider area of the base emitter junction of transistor Q2 can be think of a larger combination or n number of combination of transistor which are drawing n output current from one reference current. So here is the idea. So if this is a transistor Q2 which has a wider emitter base junction or n times wider emitter base junction in comparison with that of the Q1, then that can be represented by parallel transistor parallel all parallel transistors which are drawing equal current I1, I2, I3 from one reference current. So that is why this I dash reference is actually capable enough to supply the collector current of this branch, this transistor Q1, as well as all of the base current for all of these transistors. That is why, since there exists uh, n number of transistors which are copying along with the source transistor, so its base current also will be supplied through this I reference current, or the reference current. So that is why n plus 1 times IB plus IC will be equals to this I dash reference. Now, since I dash reference should be capable enough to supply the copied current for all of these transistors, so n number of transistors are used over here, so n times I reference should be replaced as I have shown in my last slide. So this equation we can obtain from here, and from this expression we can write I naught is equals to n times I reference divided by this factor. In this derivation, the effect of the early effect has been neglected. If you include the early effect, then the actual expression for the output current should include the expression for early effect also, and here this VA2 is the early effect for the early voltage for the transistor Q2.